It's easier to manage OpenLDAP through a web browser and tool like PHP LDAP admin. But you can also use command line tools to achieve the same result. I'd recommend you look into setting up PHP LDAP admin if this is your first setup with OpenLDAP. For instructions about how to set up PHP LDAP admin, check out the supplementary reading. In this lesson, we're going to quickly run down a few of the commands that will allow you to add, modify, and remove entries in your directory. To begin using command line tools, you need to use something known as LDIF files, pronounced LDIF. We've already seen LDIF format or LDAP notation in action. It's just a text file that lists attributes and values that describe something. Here's a simple example of an LDIF file for a user. Even without understanding what the syntax of this file is saying, we can infer that it's talking about an employee named Cindy who works in the engineering department of the company, example.com. We've talked a little bit about what the attributes are referring to in an earlier lesson, but you can refer to the supplemental reading if you want to know what the specific fields mean. For our purposes here though, we just want to see a high-level overview of how this works. Once you've written your LDIF files, you're practically done. Depending on what task you want to do to your directory, you'd run commands like these. LDAP add. This takes the input of an LDIF file and adds the context of the files. LDAP modify. As you can guess, this modifies an existing object. LDAP delete. This will remove the object that the LDIF file refers to. LDAP search. This will search for entries in your directory database. It's not important to know the syntax of these commands. You can always look up the syntax on official documentation. But as you can see, it's not scary to work with OpenLDAP. It operates in a very similar way to Windows Active Directory or AD. You can take this knowledge and populate your directory just like you did in Windows AD. If you're curious about the syntax of these commands, check out the supplemental reading on using LDIF files and LDAP commands. Again, if you're considering OpenLDAP as your solution to your directory service needs, I'd recommend looking into the web manager tool, PHP LDAP admin, that we've included a link to in the next reading. Just like Windows AD, this topic can be pretty extensive, so think about which directory solution best fits the IT needs for your organization. There are lots of reasons why you might want to deploy the help of a directory service like OpenLDAP or Active Directory while working in a systems administration role. Directory services are great for centralized authentication, keeping track of what computers are in your organization, who can access them, and more. Make sure to play around and familiarize yourself with OpenLDAP or PHP LDAP admin to get a better sense of how these directory services work. Checking out the official documentation is always a good place to start. By now, you've learned about all the essential IT infrastructure services. The next topic we'll shift to is how to make sure all the hard work you put into your IT infrastructure doesn't go to waste by learning about disaster recovery and backups. Your hard work is really paying off. High five to that. Now, take a moment to complete the quiz we put together for you. Then we'll meet you back in the next video.